In this session, we are going to investigate the next phase, the next topic. Now, just to recap, we have done the SPX background, we've done the opportunities identification, we did the acquiring the opportunities, getting them into the SPX system, and then the development and the prioritization of the opportunities. Now it's taking a slightly different turn where we are going to look at sending out the opportunity alerts to suppliers and receiving responses. I don't have to tell you how critical this process is, because now we have done all the groundwork, we have done all the investigation, we know where the opportunities are, how important they are, we've developed them, and they are at a stage now where we are confident to send out these opportunities to our suppliers. And that is now where the crux is of the program, where we are now introducing and matching the suppliers and the buyers. Now, the outline of this session: if we send out the opportunity alerts, it must be a fair process. It should provide everybody with an opportunity to respond, and mostly, in many cases, via the associations. If you remember, we said in the earlier part of this course that the associations play a vital role in extending the arm of the SPX office. In certain countries, we did say, just to remind you, that associations are the extension of the SPX main office, in the sense that they are mini SPX centers. They are the people that have to reach out to their members, because they are the representative bodies of the industrial sector, and they have their members who they represent and who they have a very, very close relationship with. The next aspect that we are going to talk about is distributing opportunities to the supplier fraternity. Firstly, we said it must be fair, so we must reach everybody. Everybody must have a chance. All suppliers must have a chance, or potential suppliers must have the chance and the opportunity to be able to put in a request for information. In other words, to stand a chance of doing business. Then we're also going to talk about developing a process to capture the responses. You will understand that to send out opportunities and to send it out to our supplier fraternity and to our potential suppliers, the response that we get is crucial, and the way that we get those responses and how we receive those responses should be designed, and it has to be very effective. So we're going to talk about that. The process to receive and capture the responses, which sort of links on to the previous point, and that is where we have to be, as the SPX, effective in how we design capturing the responses. Now, if we look at the first point, the fair process in providing everybody with an opportunity to respond, the distributing opportunity opportunity alerts. If we want to make this a fair process, we have to use as many channels, communication channels, as possible. And we're going to explore a few of those. the SPX website. The SPX website is a very well organized website. Some countries still have to do a website. Some have a website, and it is obviously one of the recommendations that all SPX centers should have a website, because the website is a very, very popular tool for communication. The SPX database, all SPXs have a database, or should have a database. The SPX center where I am involved in have about 500 people or potential suppliers on the database. Now, how do you get the database? The database is designed via the profiles. So you send out the profiling form and you get profiles and you load these people on your database. Existing suppliers, yes, we will obviously, the SPX will obviously also find these existing suppliers from the SPX database. We would obviously start with existing suppliers, not start with them, but they are really the people that the SPX already has some sort of a profile of, and they know the organizations and the companies. So existing suppliers are crucial in this process. Other databases, we know that all countries have various databases. I did speak about that earlier in the session, not in this session, but in the course. We did mention the various types of databases. Some of them are on the internet, most of them on the internet. Some are sold through directories, hard copies, books, etc. And a lot of the associations have their own databases, and governments have databases, agencies have databases. We don't have to go into too much detail on that. Buyer referrals, we also get referrals from buyers. Buyers would come to the SPX and say, you know what, we have been doing business in the past with companies A to Z. We are still doing business with some of them. Some of them we're not doing business with anymore, but we would like to start doing business with some of those companies again. We would like to evaluate them, and that is important, that one takes cognizance of the referrals that the buyers also send to the SPX. Now these, remember, are all channels where the SPX sends the opportunity alerts. Those opportunities that have now been worked on and that have been refined and that have been developed, and those we want now to go out into the world. Advertisements, there are obviously many opportunities for advertisements. We can look at newspapers, we can look at industry publications, we can look at advertisements from in brochures of organizations, associations, advertisements to their members. There are a number. The MIS, the Management Information System. I'm tempted to not go into too much detail on the MIS. As I said in the previous session, the MIS is still now in the process of being developed, but it will definitely be a very effective method or a channel of distributing alerts. Now, sending out opportunity alerts to suppliers and receiving responses, we're still on that topic. To develop a process to receive and capture responses effectively. We have to be very clear. When we send out the alert, it has to be user-friendly, and the suppliers must understand the information that is sought in that alert. Now, I am going to show you an example of a response sheet. Now, the response sheet will give us an idea of the feedback received from our suppliers. And it will give us very specific information that we can then take and work on. Now, we can also do that via industry associations, representative bodies, professional bodies, government agencies, business development agencies, research and development institutions, academic institutions, export councils, labor unions. That is also what we can use to send out and to get the responses. Now, the next point or the next topic that we would like to discuss is distributing opportunities to the supplier fraternity. Now, the opportunity alerts can be posted via the SPX website, a special opportunity alert. And what we do is there can be a link. We form a link. They go onto the website. There's a link which refers them to the alert. The free access for all SPX databases. There's free access for all SPX databases. Now, the free access is for the database members, the members that and the associations. And it is very important that we understand that we cannot give everybody access to the database. So what was decided, for instance, by the SPX in South Africa was that we make the database available selectively. Now, selectively means that we will make it available to the association chairman or the CEO, and they can access the database and then selectively manage the database. And then they can see what is on that database, and they can mobilize, send the information to their members, communicate to their members these opportunities. And it is a very important in-house methodology or a mechanism where the website can be utilized by our members. A website generally is also a very good tool. We must remember that a website is something that it's a family. It's almost not really a family thing, but for the SPX, we want to get as much as possible people to come onto our website, but especially our members. The associations should utilize the website. And more, as we found, in our situation. More and more people are using the website to get the information. Now the website, just to reiterate, a website, the alerts to our associations, it's very targeted to our associations, and that works effectively. And then the MIS alerts can be placed on the new management information system. Industry can respond directly to those alerts, and this is a phenomenal breakthrough. If the management information system comes into being, your industry will have almost free access, well, not almost, but it will have free access, and it will be able to, in a very user-friendly way, go into the management system, and they will be exposed to the whole fraternity, business fraternity, which is on the system. And there will be free information flowing and communication going right throughout the process. And then a very important point, also a breakthrough, is that RFQs can be placed directly on the management information system, where the MIS goes out, or where the MIS is made available, the MIS is marketed, buyers can go directly into the MIS, and they can place their requests for quotes, and there you have it. The suppliers can access, and then they reply, they respond, and the SPX captures those responses and then takes the process further, engages the suppliers with the buyers. Now, posting opportunity alerts also to existing suppliers' databases. There are many existing supplier databases. There are other databases, as we mentioned, Tier 1 suppliers. Now, Tier 1 suppliers, if we can just talk go into a bit of more detail on the Tier 1 suppliers. Now, as we said in the previous session, the Tier 1 suppliers are mostly your OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. If we can recap very briefly, Tier 1 or OEM, they are contracted usually to a main contractor. A main contractor could be a state-owned company. It could be, in this case, if the state-owned company is the main contractor, it is contracted to a government project. But you get contractors in many forms. As we said, we could get contractors that are consortia. It could be a group of global companies. It could be an agency. It could have many forms. But an OEM or Tier 1 supplier is somebody who's contracted to that main contractor. But in many instances, in some cases as well, the Tier 1 supplier or the OEM could be also the main contractor. So they are contracted to a project, and then they will need sub-suppliers, Tier 2, 3, or 4. So what is important in this instance, that the SPX should know and identify Tier 1 suppliers, and the posting of opportunity alerts could also be shown to them, because they may then be supplying to the main contractor. Buyer referrals, we get buyers that give us referrals, advertisements. Developing a process to capture responses. Now, to develop a process to capture the responses, the purpose. Now, if we've now sent out the opportunities, as we said earlier, it is so important that we have a very good methodology or a mechanism in getting back and receiving the responses, because we must get the responses, and the SPX must receive responses in an orderly fashion. Now, the purpose is to track effectiveness of the SPX communication with industry. That will give us, if we can see that our response mechanism is working, if we can see that the response mechanism or the response process is effective, it gives us a good idea of how we communicate, and is our communication effective to our stakeholders, to our industry. It builds an SPX database. In many cases, or in all cases, all responses are recorded. If they're not on our database yet, we put them on our database. They are placed on the database, it builds our database. What we will then do as well is, if we didn't get all the information on that response of the company, we would decide to go to the company and we profile the company. If needs be, the company can also be benchmarked. It's increasing our market intelligence. An example, a huge transport SOC in a country, or in the process of, it's a project, it's a program, it's a huge program which runs for 18 years, and thousands of motorized coaches to be built. And they came to the SPX, and this could happen. Sometimes you would find that some of these organizations or contractors or big projects would ask the SPX because they know the SPX has a database, which is an extensive database. They would come and ask to do a market survey. The market survey was to see how much could be localized, how much of those coaches to be built could be localized in this country or in that country. And what we did is we sent out a list of components of a typical coach, and then the feedback came, and those responses were recorded, and we said we put a value to, we placed a value to their responses on each of these components, and we went back to this utility, and we said to them, we think a 65% or 70% localization is possible. So that's also one of the functions of us sending out these type of lists or alerts to our to our fraternity. Our capturing new companies to be profiled and added to database, which I've just mentioned. It latches onto what I've just said. Building supplier capability, capacity, knowledge, which is very important for SPX. The SPX need to build always, all the time, continually, and continuously to build our knowledge of our suppliers and our supplier base. Our supplier base is absolutely the backbone of the program, because for SPX to engage and to add value, we must adhere absolutely 100% to that aspect, that we are there to get more and more suppliers better suppliers for our buyers. Increasing SPX value credibility. Our credibility for our buyers, the buyers must see the value that we are adding as SPX. And this exercise increases our credibility because they can see that we are bringing suppliers to the table. They can see that what the quality and the capabilities are as we get and we receive responses. Fulfilling the SPX mandate of matchmaking, at the end of the day, that is what we do. That is the crux, that is our purpose. Now, the process to receive and capture responses, I am going to discuss with you two examples. The two examples of what we use to attain and to get information from our suppliers. And the responses that we then receive is influenced or is informed by the way in which we've designed the questionnaire, for that matter, that we have sent out to, or the alert. Let's get back to that. It's the alert. Remember, we're talking about opportunity alerts. When we send out the opportunity alerts, it is imperative, as we said, that it is effective and that the people and the suppliers understand. I just wanted to interrupt myself on this point. It's very important that we understand that when we spoke about the bill of materials, that is a pre-process. The bill of materials is not in effect and in real terms. It's not an alert. The bill of materials is a process which is used earlier in our SPX program to ascertain what the capabilities and capacity is of our suppliers, to get a broader picture, a wider scope of information on what is out there. We must be clear that the alert, the opportunity alert, is a very specific, remember, a specific request for companies to tell us whether they're interested in doing the business. And that is informed by the questions that we ask. And those questions I would like to go through with you on two examples. For instance, on example 1, there is a column for tier 1 suppliers, and there's a line item level. In other words, it says what the component is. Then we ask them, are you locally manufacturing in these items? Clear question. Are you already in this game? Are you playing in this space? If yes, what is the local content percentage? Now, in some countries, the local content would probably not be so important, but I think most of the countries, the SPX will see that as an imperative for local content, because it is a good indication of what is our local or that country's local capabilities. Do you currently supply to buyer? Then, because we must remember now, this alert has been designed sometimes by the buyer. Now, or it is informed by the buyer. So a buyer would say, this is what we need, can you please find us suppliers? We must be very clear there, can you find us suppliers? So they give us an indication of what is the information that they need for us to send out to our suppliers. Do you currently supply to us? In other words, to buyer A, to that buyer or to that organization? Expression of interest. Do you want to be included in the SPX program for profiling, benchmarking, and matchmaking? If they say no, and we found it in many instances where they fill in the form, and then when you ask them whether they want to be assisted, if there are gaps, then they would say no. In many instances, they would say yes. Most of them would, because those are the progressive organizations and companies, and our industrial development is imperative to them, is an imperative for them. And those are, fortunately, mostly of our suppliers are forward-thinking, and they would like to be assisted. Then there's a second aspect, or which is interrogated on that alert. It asks tier 2 to 3. That's not. Remember, the first one was the tier 1. Tier 2 to 3. Those are sub-suppliers. Do you supply any of the following components? And you would have tier 2 and 3 components. Or do you render any of the following services? And then a list of 4 component groups are given for each line item level. So the line item, as we said on the tier 1 earlier, each line item, there are 4 component groups. And these component groups are then for the tier 2 and 3 companies. That will be quite clear if you would refer to that example in the lesson material, which will be provided. Example 2, the following information is sought for each of the following: refurbishment, manufacture, assembly, and maintenance. So there are 4 different levels of intervention or of participation from suppliers. This is an example taken from a huge project where rolling stock is being planned to be manufactured over a number of years. So this questionnaire went out as an alert. It listed a list of tier 1 and tier 2 components. Again, remember, it's tier 1 and tier 2. In many of these instances, the tier 1 and tier 2 are investigated. The tier 2 or tier 3 and further would then be derived from the information that we get from the tier 2 companies. There are standards, because these products are made and are manufactured under very, very strict standard conditions. So the standard certification must be requested. The price competitiveness, an indication is requested from the suppliers. They are prompted on type or a range of prices, and then they would say they're out of that range, or they could be in the range, and it gives you an idea of price competitiveness. The current annual output, in other words, to find out again what is the capability and capacity. The future annual output, future annual output is a projection of the company, also indicating to us and to the SPX, and in this situation, what their sustainability expectations are. Do they see themselves as sustainable in the future? Do they see themselves how many years further, and that is very important. Current annual capacity, future annual capacity, that's capacity. The first one, future annual output, is what they produce, and then an indication of what they can produce. Now, what they can produce now, what is their percentage of capacity and their future annual capacity. And then there's a 3-year window, 6 years and 10 years. Supports needed for lack of standards. Yes, if they need support, they must show us that they need support for standards, because there are measures in place where they could be assisted on upgrading their standards. Support needed for building capacity and capability. That is to find out whether they need help there. This example can also be considered an industry capability survey. This example, it can be seen as an industry capability survey, but it can also serve very effectively as an alert, an opportunity alert. The reason for that is if you use it as an opportunity alert, you extract the information which is relevant that you can take further and negotiate with a buyer. So taking into consideration what we said in this session on sending out opportunity alerts to suppliers and receiving responses, it is evident that this is really the process or the point in the SPX process where tangible engagements will be taking place and will start the matchmaking process in a very, very directed and an orderly way. Now, just to reiterate, the opportunity alerts and taking opportunities after we've now interrogated, investigated all the opportunities and seen the quality of the opportunities, which is as important, of course, as we said, and now taking those and actually taking the opportunities to the market and getting to our suppliers and getting the opportunities so that the suppliers can see what the opportunities, what the way and what the ways are in how they should actually engage with those opportunities. And that is really the crux. And now it's starting to get very, very exciting in the SPX process and the program. And we would really like all the SPX centers to consider that at this point a lot of success has been reached, and now is to take it further to the end.